Bless you, then.
What?
I said bless you.
Yeah.
Huh? No, sir.
Baby, baby, mama.
What's your butt? You're welcome, bud. Go. Where's your bubba at, bud? Mm-hmm. Alright. So, this is Andy with Thorn Computers with another live stream build. Just kind of give you a rundown as to what we're going to be doing today. We haven't gotten the actual power supply for this build yet. So we're just going to get the motherboard all set up. We're going to get that mounted in the case. This specific build is actually just kind of like a generic home use desktop. It is going to have the AMD. It's going to be the Ryzen 5 2600. So it's going to have a mid-range CPU with good processing power. But the user is just going to be using it for home use, so he'll probably be doing some Word on it, internet browsing, and then his main thing was he wanted good processing speed for being able to watch stocks and trading stocks. So we went with an AMD because of the budget of his build. Now this user actually did have a budget set at $750, and we were able to get it for everything that he wanted. He wanted dual monitors. Those also will be showing up this coming week, so I don't have those to show off, but they are the Asus SV22s, so they They're the 22-inch 1080p, nothing super fancy, but they're good quality monitors, and you got the dual for, you know, $750 budget. I would probably have to say he got his money worth out of this one. So it's a close friend of mine. Again, another guy in the Air Force that I work with. So we have these Intel SSDs that we're going to be putting in them. Probably not the best SSDs, but because I have multiples of these sitting around, I was able to compromise with the pricing on stuff. We also went with a 550 watt Corsair bronze power supply. It is semi-modular, so when that comes in, I'll be getting that in. I'll probably try and jump on, maybe do a little bit of live stream for the first power on and stuff like that. But by week's end, I want this computer to be at the user's home and, you know, on his desk. One of the downsides to not having a power supply is I always have a spare one here. I don't have a spare one this time. I actually used it in a previous build because the power supply that we had ordered for the build came dead on arrival, so had to send that one back, and it's actually in the process of being sent back out again. So I'll actually have like 2 or 3 power supply units that are going to be showing up this week. But right now I don't have any. What's up? Yeah. I also have my son up here with me, with tomorrow being Mother's Day. The wife is out getting pampered with the daughter, so me and the son are going to be having some fun building a computer. So we'll kind of jump right into it here. I'll give you the rundown. We'll save the CPU and motherboard kind of for last. Alright, so to start out, we have the Corsair Carbide Spec 05. Now this case, I opened it, I took a look at it. It's, the best way to put it is one of their, I guess you would say, lower end. Being a Corsair product, that's not really a bad thing. But every manufacturer has their tiers, and I would probably say this is a tier 2, tier 3, so it's a little bit lower end. You have a lot more plastic than you do like metals and aluminums. The whole front section right here, it's just a big sheet of plastic rather than like aluminum or like NZXT. My case, that one's it's all steel, so it's a little bit more durable. On the side, this is the first time that I've seen this. Normally you have the little twist offs. This actually has a Allen key to take off the side pin. To me, that's just weird. I feel like Corsair went a little bit backwards with that. Maybe they tried to compromise and save money, and 4 set screw fasteners were, but they have it on the backside, so I don't know. To me, it's just it's a little irritating that we have these are even on this specific case. I mean, like, it's literally just a small hex screw. It really doesn't make any sense to me. The inside is pretty plain. There's nothing too fancy about it. Doesn't have a lot of cable management holes along the back, so pretty much all the cables that you run from the power supply up the back down, so your 24 pin, your 8, 6 pin. Hell, even if you put a graphics card in it, like I said, this one is not going to have a graphics card. It's going to be using the integrated graphics within the CPU, because this user isn't doing gaming with it. And even with the AMD 2600, you can do gaming on it. It's just you're not going to be getting those 60 frames per second playing any crazy gaming, anything like that. It's going to be pretty basic game. So. But this user isn't in it for that. All he's doing is his stock trading and using it for home office. So, side panel, it's just a plexiglass. It's not even a real glass. Again, with the cases in today's I guess, gaming or desktop world, most of them are going to be a glass side. The Crystal series, the Tier 1 for the Corsair cases, it's all glass. I mean, it's a beautiful case too. I've built one. I've built 2 or 3 of them with that case, and absolutely beautiful case. But that's also a $157 case compared to $60, which that's what I spent on this the Spec 05. So you're getting what you pay for, and I don't like to say that because I'm not saying that this case is bad by any means. This is actually a very well designed case. It still has the cable management, it has the access holes and stuff like that. It just doesn't have that sheath that kind of runs right here that allows you to hide a lot of the internal components. It's just kind of open, so you're going to have your power supply unit right here, and your cables you're going to want to route through the back and run up, but you're still going to see them running down. And I got a couple of fans right here. These are some Fractal Design fans. I believe they're white. This fan right here is a white LED fan, so I want to match it. And then I also have the Corsair white fans as well. So once that power supply does come in, I'll be throwing in the white LED light fans. One of the pluses to this case, up top here, you can actually mount a 240 millimeter radiator. I like that's definitely a plus with this case. It is rare to find a case. I guess it's becoming more norm nowadays, but because a lot of people are going with AIOs and the all-in-one coolers, which allow you to do a lot more compared to the older cases where usually you only had 120 millimeter fan slot along the top of the case. This actually has room for 2, so we could actually mount a 240 millimeter radiator and run it from here right down to your motherboard rather than having to mount it up front. In which, by looking at this case right here, I'm not even sure if that is a possibility. I would actually need to throw in a 240 millimeter radiator. It'd have to be a low profile one of the thinner ones. But it might just barely fit up front. This spot right here that holds our hard drives, that does not come off either, which again, it's kind of a setback from what I've been getting through Corsair. Generally, that's not the kind of quality that I see out of them. I do go for usually a tier 2, something in the middle. Like I said, this is probably a very low-end tier 2, so mid-range to very entry-level. Lots of plastic on it, but for $60, I would recommend this case to a new computer builder or anyone who's just looking for an affordable case. It fits a full ATX motherboard in it. You got all your slots back here for your PCI and PCIe cards. So wireless card is going to be going into this build as well. But you definitely have tons of room. So 2080 series graphic cards, they're bigger, they're bulkier. Not sure if it would fit in this case. I would definitely like to, if anyone's got any information on that, I would definitely like to hear about it. But yeah, just a very open case. Not really anything fancy about it. That's basically what I can say about it. It is a very well designed case. It's sturdy. It's got these little feet on the bottom, so the bottom of your case has room to breathe. Power supply can suck in the air it needs and do its job. We do have USB 3.0 up top. USB 3.1 is going to be coming out soon, so well, it's currently out already, but it is going to be plummeting the market, and you're going to see a lot more of those compared to the 3.0s. faster transfer rate. That's pretty much what it does there. So, now I know a lot of people ask me all the time, like, what do you use for tools? I've seen people use regular screwdrivers. I've done it before. I've gone on eBay and Amazon and bought little, super cheap, kind of crappy screwdriver sets. There's a couple of Microsoft ones. You okay, bud? Yeah, you're all right. There's a couple of not Microsoft, Macintosh, Apple screws that they use the 6-point stars that you can't find in a lot of these builds, or these tool kits, I should say. Went on Amazon, found this. This toolkit is fantastic. It's literally got everything you need. It's got, I believe it's 120 bits and screws, or bits and drivers. It's got everything from your needle nose to scrapers to your pries, your plastic pries for getting your cases apart in laptops. It's got your wrist straps so you can properly ground yourself. I'm not going to really talk much on that because I don't use these, because I don't think that we have the static electricity problems that we used to. I mean, there is still static electricity everywhere, but I personally never had a computer blow up because of static electricity. And then it's also got a little plunger for replacing screens. I mean, it literally has everything you need. So when you go to pull off a screen, what you do is you heat up the outside of it with a heat gun. It'll loosen up the glue on it, and then you take this little plunger, you suction it onto it, and then you pull it off, and it all comes off at once. Anyone who is familiar with replacing screens before will understand the struggle of having to chip away at a screen for hours because it just keeps, snapping off. So this tool set right here, I want to say it was like 27 bucks. Super affordable, awesome deal. If you're new into computer building, you just want to build a computer at your house, pick it up. It'll work wonders. What's up, buddy? Touch. Go play with your toys, buddy, okay? So we got 8 gigs of Corsair Vengeance, OPX, low profile. Okay, we'll get some more in a little bit, okay? That's the RAM we're going to be putting in at 2666, so good clock rate. Overall, nothing too fancy. Yeah, we'll get you some in a little bit, bud. So this is just my components for the case. Alright, I'm going to run downstairs real quick, grab him some more snacks. I will be right back, and we'll dig into the CPU. Thank you. Welcome back. You're welcome. All right. So, The RAM, it's not going to be anything super special. Hey, away from the steps. It's not going to be anything super special. Just be pretty much your standard RAM. Like I said before, this is going to be a home use computer. It's not going to be used for gaming. Maybe some very minimal, but it's not going to be anything too crazy. We got the Ryzen 5 2600. We're not going to use a, we're basically just going to use the standard CPU cooler. We didn't go with anything fancy because his budget was pretty low. So here's our CPU. You're throwing that stick on there too for him. So 6 core, 3.9 gigahertz, 3.4 base, so can be overclocked to 3.9. Nothing too insane, but it'll do the job. It's a good platform for him to start on. And I told him he can improve, he can add what he wants. I can do it for him, and we can kind of go from there. But he just needs it for right now as a home office computer. So CPU cooler. Asus Prime B450M. Thorn Computers is a certified reseller of Asus and MSI products, so I use Asus and MSI any chance that I can. Awesome quality overall. I've never had a bad experience with customer service or warrantying any motherboard through Asus and MSI, like I have with other manufacturers. So people ask me all the time, you know, who do you recommend? What companies do you recommend? Asus and MSI is always my answer. I love the quality of what they send you, and their customer service is significantly better than what I've used in the past. Alright, so it's not going to be a full-size ATX board. It's going to be a basically just a little bit smaller. It doesn't have the additional PCI and PCIe slots, but it still has your 2.5 SSD slot here. It's got a couple of heat sinks here and there, nothing super fancy, but USB 3.0 and 4 slots for RAM. So if the customer does decide he wants to throw some more RAM in it, he can do so. So gray, the heat sinks are a kind of like a nickel finish, so gray and black. It'll look good in this case. It'll look good. I think it fits. It'll be dark with the white LED fans that kind of give it some life, give it some character. And then it's also a tinted side panel on the Spec 5. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and jump right into mounting our CPU on the motherboard. We'll get our RAM installed, and then we'll work on getting that installed into the computer, into the case itself. This is probably going to be a shorter stream, but I do plan on doing some city skylines as well right after this, so tune in for that. We'll get our little Ryzen 5 sticker out. So the process to installing a CPU, for people who don't know, on the motherboard, right here we got a very small arm, goes up and down. On LGA, Intel based motherboards, it's going to be similar, except it's going to be kind of like a door in the front. LGA stands for land grid array, and instead of the pins being on the processor itself, the pins are on the board, and they make contact with the grid array that's on the CPU itself. So basically what you do is take a look at your board, position yourself. You do not want to try and install your CPU in backwards or wrong, because you will bend pins. If you put it in the wrong way, it will break something, and you don't want to have to pay for a new CPU. So there's going to be a little triangle in the bottom corner of your CPU, so you find that. I got it right here. It's going to be right on this corner right here. It's going to be right on this corner on the motherboard itself. All you do is you match them up. Make sure this arm is up and not down, because it'll drop into place. There's no force needed. So all you do is you take it, boom, and it literally just drops into place. Then you take your arm, bring her down. What I usually do is just kind of give her a wiggle. You don't crank on it or nothing. Just a small. Make sure that it doesn't come out. Make sure that those pins actually make contact. And it's funny because this is actually the first time that I've ever used the new the new style. It's not the Wraith cooler, so it doesn't have the LED lights in it and stuff like that. But it is still a very good cooler. I should say it's good for the stock environment. Break out the handy dandy toolkit here. We're going to have to take off this stock mount on the motherboard itself, so we can go ahead and get this mounted. Actually, I'm just going to go ahead and set that right up there. The rest of it is not needed right now, so I'm just going to go ahead and set that on the ground. What's up, buddy? You want potty? So when doing this, usually I keep it on top of the anti-static bag here, and I just kind of work on top of the box rather than keeping it on like a flat surface. Just because, I don't know, that's how I've always done it. I've never not done it this way, so. Then you just want to position it so that you know it's positioning properly on top of your CPU, along with the mount points. So, boom, 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 and then get them started a little bit. Don't crank them down too good, because you want to evenly tighten them down so that each of them are making contact, and your CPU cooler is actually sitting flush and flat on top of your CPU. Alright, there we go. There we have her. And then always make sure you actually plug your CPU fan plug into your plug point on your motherboard. Channel, because there will be quite a few places that you can actually plug this in but you want to make sure that it's actually your CPU fan plug. That way it can adjust when to kick on the fan. I should say when to increase the speed of the fan. Mine just so happens to be right there. So I'm just trying to tuck that. Not really much that I can do with that. Can't really hide it too well. Now with your RAM, the most important part with your RAM is if you're working with an older motherboard, DDR3 RAM, it will, well, I should say DDR3 and DDR4. Once you start getting back into DDR2, they didn't offset the RAM itself, so you could actually install it backwards and blow up your CPU. I should say blow up your motherboard in general, and then that's just, you don't want to do that. So you know, it has a notch. It's kind of offset. By eye, it's kind of hard to see, but it is offset. So it's nearly impossible to install it backwards. So all you do is you take it, you want to open up your plug here, and actually this board itself is slot 2 first. So your owner manual for your motherboard will actually tell you the positioning in which you want to install your RAM, and then it'll just, you'll hear it click into place. Usually it's 2 and 4, and then 1 and 3. I know there have been a couple boards that I've worked with that actually are 1 and 3, and then 2 and 4. So that's how you want to, and that's a performance thing. So, all right. So CPU is on there. Here is, I mean, this is pretty much it. Got our CPU cooler installed, thermal paste is on there already, RAM is installed. Now we pretty much just mount it inside the case, and this build is, the actual build portion of it is going to be fairly quick. When it comes to installing the operating system, if you're running into any problems with having to flash the BIOS. Oh, that's nice. This motherboard actually has a really nice clip for your PCIe slot. So, I'm going to go ahead and pull out our I/O shield. Do not forget your I/O shield. A lot of people forget their I/O shield, and they get motherboard installed, and then they look at the back and they're like, oh shit, I forgot my shield in the back. So always make sure you get that installed before you make sure it's installed the correct way. I've actually done that before, put it in upside down. It'll make you feel stupid the first time you do it, and you won't do it again. So, and you're just going to push it, it'll pop into place. Push all 4 corners. There you have it. So one of the things that I really like about ASUS and MSI is they give you more than 2. I shouldn't say that. Last motherboard I got 2 zip ties. I hate that. I cannot stand that. We need zip ties for proper cable management. Send us more than 2. What are we supposed to do with 2? So we got 6. I mean, that's a good amount. Pretty standard, I suppose. But I've also gotten none in certain cases. So Corsair and ASUS, I should say. Actually, no, this came with the case. So yeah, it would be Corsair. Corsair always gives us enough zip ties to do the job. We also have quite a few extra fasteners. I have like toolboxes full of these screws for mounting your motherboard, extra case screws, fan screws, stuff like that. So we're going to find our motherboard mount screws. There they are. And then we also have these longer ones. Those are for actual AIOs, all-in-one coolers, water-cooled systems. So we're just going to take the case, and lay it on its back. Make sure I got the right screw head on my my handy dandy tool here. That will do. Alright. So now we are literally just going to pick it up and put it into place. You might have to install the standoffs, but the cases nowadays usually have them pre-installed, so it's really nice that we don't really have to worry about that anymore, because they're kind of a pain in the butt.
What?
They're usually not too bad, but they can be a real pain, especially if you put them in crooked, and then they end up getting installed crooked. It's going to extend out a little bit here. And then they can actually like strip out your standoff. So again, don't crank anything down. You want to make sure that your motherboard gets installed flush properly and without any major issues. I usually kind of jump around. I'll put one on like each corner, and then I'll fill in the middle, and then I'll kind of torque them all down. And for all the people who are new with computers, don't be afraid to work on your equipment. I get a lot of people who are like, well, aren't you afraid to break stuff and you know, have extra costs because of it? And yeah, I mean, it does happen. Sometimes we make mistakes and we break stuff. As long as you're not breaking the entire computer, you're good to go. If you break an individual component, you replace that component, and you can call her a day. But for example, walking out to someone's vehicle to give them their computer, and you chuck your computer on the ground, that would suck. Don't do that. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Alright, so it looks like we only have 5 in this one. We do have 2 spots for additional standoffs, but not really a big deal. I'm just going to go ahead and install the 5 that are already pre-installed, rather than pulling the board out and reinstalling it. Because the ones on the bottom, we don't have a graphic card in here. We are going to be putting a PCIe wireless card in here, but that's not going to cause a lot of strain anymore. So yeah, it's not going to look like anything super fancy. It's literally just going to look like your average computer. I mean, there you have it. You're going to have a lot of zip ties kind of sitting around. Here's your motherboard, or I should say your case plugs. So you definitely want to make sure you get those plugged in. What I usually do is pull all of these back out of the case. I don't care what hole they went into, and drape them out the back. That way I can kind of see where I want it to kind of run, through which holes, and where to give it the best to keep it kind of as hidden as possible, because you don't want a whole lot of stuff kind of clogging up the inside of your case, restricting airflow, anything like that. So we could bring it there. We could also bring it in through here. which I think that's what I want to do. Alright. HD audio. All this black, I can't read it. And then of course we're going to have our power reset and LED light. So this will allow us to use the case to actually turn off and do whatever it is we need to do with it. Alright, there we go. Give them a little tug, bring them back out the side. Alright, so I'm going to install our fans here. We're going to have the back's going to be our exhaust. It's a pretty standard setup here. And then we'll probably, I think I'm actually we're gonna pop the front off, and I'm going to swap out the fan in the front because we actually have two slots up front. So I'm going to put in the Fractal Design LED fans up front, and I'll move the Corsair to the rear. That way they're matching and we don't have any conflict of like lighting if something's maybe a little brighter or anything like that. What's up, buddy? So this case does have a, on the front we have our ports along the top, bottom, and sides, and then we have the slit that runs all the way down the middle of it, and then it's kind of got like a mesh behind it. Again, not the best quality. A lot of new cases, good quality cases. You know, it's good that they added in that dust filter, I guess the screen to the front, but I would have liked to see the magnetic removable dust filter that you can pull out and clean, because that's going to be a little tricky to clean all that. But I mean, it is what it is. You get what you pay for with your cases. So I've definitely seen a lot worse cases. I've seen better, but I've also seen worse. So in terms of price, what you get is good still with this case. So alright. We're going to take out that fan, and this one is actually going to be routed to the back as our exhaust. And then the two Fractal Design, let's see here, Fractal Design Silent Series LL 120mm fans. Those are the ones we're going to put up front, and they'll be the primary cooling, I should say sucking cooling factor for the case. Realistically, we could have got away with just using one. It would have been just fine. But why not put a little bit extra? AMD tends to run a little bit hotter than Intel, but overall, it's they're outstanding processors. So. Jackson, where you going, bud? You what? You're stuck. Oh no. Oh no, how'd you get stuck? What's up, bud? We gotta clean off your fingies, bud. Alright. And then this we're actually going to bring up out the top. That way that stays somewhat hidden. We don't have cables dangling down. And the secondary fan here, we are going to do similar, except I'm going to rotate it up. That way we can just run it right up and down like so. Yeah, and that's super tight. It's a super tight fit with these, the two 120mm fans up front. So I don't know. I don't know if you could even fit the 240 radiator here, because I mean it's literally butted right on top of where you mount your 3.5-inch hard drives. I'm sure you can. Most cases usually make it so you can mount anything. I mean, you could go with an H60, 120 millimeter rad, and with this CPU, it would cool it easily. So, there we have it. So we're going to have sucking, blowing by. Our fan for the CPU is going to grab that, or it's going to dissipate through the heat sink, the heat from the CPU itself, and then that wind passing by it is just going to snatch it, and then it's going to hit the exhaust, and it's going to blow all that heat out of your case. Keep everything nice and clean on the inside. We shouldn't have any issues with heat. That's one of the nice things about having some of these very open cases is you can really do a lot with them. So we could mount our solid states. We don't have our power supply right now. Jackson, what you doing, bud? What are you doing? Probably should have routed this before I put that in there. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to get it to fit. So we might have to go up that way, which is okay. We might have to go down. Might actually do what we need to do. We might have to zip tie this somewhere because what's up, buddy? Might be able to go like that. Don't think we're going to be able to do that. I like a very clean case, so I'm just trying to figure out how to hide some of these cables here. I might end up having to pull this exhaust fan out and routing that plug a little bit better, which is fine. Let's see here, we got fan head. Huh. I think I only have 2 spots. You okay, bud? You okay? Alright. Yeah, I might have to put in a fan controller on this. That's interesting. USB. Speaker. You okay, bud? Yeah, in order to get those fans to work properly. Just when you think everything's going to work out right, you get that big middle finger of computing. So we'll mount our SSDs. With these, they sometimes have where you can mount on your 3.5-inch drive. Sometimes they're actually on like the case themselves. Sometimes they put them on the back. What I normally do with them is I just throw 2 fasteners into them. I don't do all 4. I just put them diagonal, because realistically these things could be getting swapped out pretty regularly. They could be getting moved around. Just whatever the that's why it's too small. Whatever the case may be. What I normally do is just throw 2 screws in the bottom of it and call it a day. I don't put all 4 in. Just keep putting the wrong Phillips screw in there. There we go. Sometimes it's the easy things that get you. Mounting a solid state. So these are 120s, smaller solid states, but they do the job. Like I said, I have them sitting around, and it saved the user some money, saved me some money. At the end of the day, everyone's fat and happy. Normally what I recommend to people is doing a hybrid system where you have a large hard drive and then having, you could have a large solid state. The price of drives have become so much more affordable than where they were a year ago. Solid states used to be for 120, you were spending 115 bucks. It was very expensive. Thanks to the market and people buying up all the drives. Same with RAM. We're starting to see RAM get better. You can now buy an 8 gig stick for 30, 40, 50 bucks, which a year ago that was unheard of. That was, for an 8 gig stick, you were spending 70 bucks. So it's good to know that the market is starting to balance out with all this stuff, and it's not so flooded with people buying up all these parts and then jacking up the price. That way no one else can afford anything. Alright, so as of right now, everything that we can do is done. So just under an hour, and all we got to do is throw in our power supply and connect up our individual components and then start it up. So what we'll do is get our SATA cables connected here. And then honestly, I'll probably call it a day. I will be back on and do some live streaming of City Skylines. So definitely tune in for that if you wish. And please subscribe if you like the content. I try to do this as much as possible, live streaming. As long as I got customers who are placing orders, I try to do live streams on all of their builds, even if it's something very simple like this. And this process was delayed probably about 30 minutes due to the having to talk about what I was doing. So normally a PC build for me, even going in depth on like a high performance gaming build, depending on what they have, the components they have, can take anywhere from an hour to a couple hours to do a build from start to finish. Big part of it is when you go to hit that power button. Sometimes it does exactly what you want it to. More times than not, it does exactly what you do not want it to do, which is not start. So I'm just going to go ahead and close this up. What's up, buddy? Why are you pushing around a stroller, dude? Where's all your trucks at, man? Yeah, where's your trucks at? I know you got them around here. Hey, you want some pizza, buddy? Huh? Well, why'd you just throw the stroller down the steps? Alright, there we have it. So I'll be back on a little bit later, and I'll be jumping on City Skylines and jumping back into Fayetteville. And last night I was playing, and we had some interesting events happen. So my city, the traffic has gone down, but it just keeps increasing. So we'll see what kind of happens with it. Hopefully I can figure out the traffic problem. There. And again, thank you for everyone who attended this live stream. Set that off to the side. Thank you for everyone who attended. And yeah, I'll be back on a little bit later. So, as always, I hope you enjoyed the Thorn experience. If anyone has any questions or comments, you can email me at thorncomputers@gmail.com. You can visit the site if you're interested in one of our builds, or you just want to shoot me a message. You got some questions about any computers, any components. I love answering questions. I love helping the community as a collective group. So feel free to reach out to me. Until then, you guys have a good night, and I'll talk to you guys later. Check out the live stream later on too.